It's Ash from SuperVideos, back for another video for The Last of Us on HBO. On this video, we're going to be taking a look at whether they are going to add original backstory for Abby in the TV adaptation, which may include adding more depth to her character and also exploring the relationship between Joel and Abby in more detail for the TV show. So stay tuned, we'll be right back to break this down. Alright, as always, before we dive into it, smash the like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload on the channel. And of course, spoiler alert for those of you who have not played part 2 of the game, because I'm going to go through some heavy spoilers from part 2 of the game. So if you haven't played part 2, you don't want to watch this video because it will spoil some major stuff for you. So with that said, let's get into it. So let's dive deeper into the character of Abby and explore the different ways in which the adaptation of The Last of Us Part 2 could expand on her story to add more complexity and depth. Let's talk a little bit more about the criticisms of Abby's character in the game. Many fans felt that she was this one-dimensional character who lacked depth, which made it difficult for them to emphasize with her and feel connected to her. However, I believe that there are several reasons why her character was portrayed the way it was in the game. One of the main reasons why Abby's character may have come across as one-dimensional is that the game was primarily focused on Ellie's perspective. We see everything that happens through Ellie's eyes, and so we only get glimpses of Abby's story as it relates to Ellie's journey. This can make it difficult to fully understand Abby's motivations and the complexities of her character. Another reason why Abby's character may have been portrayed in this way is that the game was intentionally designed to be emotionally challenging and morally ambiguous. The game's developers wanted to explore themes of revenge, loss, and trauma, and to create a world that felt realistic and gritty. In order to do this, they had to make some difficult storytelling choices, including making Abby a controversial and challenging character. Now let's talk about some of the ways in which the adaptation could expand on Abby's story to add more complexity and depth. One of the approaches is to explore Abby's relationship with her father and Marlene in more detail. And one way to do this is maybe show how Abby was actively involved in working with the Fireflies, including her father and Marlene, to prepare for Joel and Ellie's arrival. This would add more nuance to Abby's motivations and make her more relatable as a character. We could see how she's not just seeking revenge for her father's death, but that she genuinely believes that the Fireflies' mission to find a cure is the right thing to do. And you could basically split this story from part 2 into two different branches. One that really deals with the revenge aspect, which was heavily focused on in the game, and the other branch is the branch that they focused on in part 1, which is about whether the Fireflies' mission to do what they wanted to do and Joel's decision to do what he did were the right decisions, and who is right and who is wrong. I feel like that idea became less of a factor in part 2, and I don't think that that should have been the case. I think that they should have expanded on that in part 2 as well, just as much as they did in the first game. And if they do this, we would see how her relationship with her father and Marlene shaped her worldview and understanding of the world. Another way in which the adaptation could expand on Abby's character is to show more of her backstory and how she became this skilled soldier and fighter. In the game, we only get brief flashbacks to Abby's life before the outbreak, which can make it difficult to understand how she became such a formidable opponent. And even after her father's death, we don't see enough to know what motivated Abby to become the formidable fighter that she became. So by exploring her backstory in more detail, we could see how she developed her skills and what motivated her to become this fighter that becomes the antagonist of part 2. We could also explore Abby's relationships with other characters in the game, such as Owen, Mel, and Yara. These characters play important roles in Abby's story, but we don't get to see much of their relationships with Abby in the game. So by fleshing out these relationships, we could see how they shaped Abby's worldview and her motivations. Another way in which the adaptation could add more complexity to Abby's character is to explore her emotional journey throughout the story. In the game, we see Abby go through a range of emotions, from anger and hatred to empathy and compassion. However, these emotional shifts happen fairly quickly, and we don't always get to see the internal struggles that Abby is going through. But we obviously do see this for Ellie far more, and I feel like they should have focused just as much on that as they did on the Abby character in part 2. And obviously, this itself causes some controversy because some fans don't want that. They don't want the focus to be on Abby. But I feel like the way that the story was shaped in part 2, that was inevitable. So, by exploring Abby's emotional journey in more detail, we could see how she grapples with her conflicting emotions and tries to make sense of the world around her. We could see how she struggles to come to terms with her father's death and the choices that led her to seek revenge. We could also see how she tries to reconcile her desire for revenge with her growing compassion for Ellie and her friends. I feel like by expanding on Abby's character in the right way, it would make it easier to portray the conflict between Abby and Ellie in a more realistic and complex and emotionally resonant fashion. By showing how Abby is conflicted about her mission to kill Joel, we would see how she fights with the difficult choices that she has to make. You would understand why she only becomes focused on killing Ellie after Ellie kills her friends and loved ones, and we would see how their conflict tears her apart emotionally. This would make the final confrontation between Abby and Ellie more impactful, as we would see the emotional weight of their conflict and the difficult choices they have to make. It would also make the ending of the game more emotionally charged, as we would see the characters grow and change over the course of their journey. I feel like this was very subtle for Abby, and I feel like to do it right, they would probably need to focus just as much on Ellie as they do on Abby. Overall, I feel like expanding on Abby's character in this way would add more depth and complexity to the story, and it would make audiences resonate with it better at a more emotional level. It would also help address some of the criticisms of the game, make Abby a more relatable and nuanced character. And if they do it well enough, it could even make the ending of part 1, which is obviously the ending of season 1, even more impactful and even more effective in the overall plot. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to go through in this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload on the channel. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.